Well, that ending sucked, and the Diamondbacks defense ruined a stellar outing from Ryne Nelson. We have more on this game, and of course, Corbin Carroll's ninth inning dinger. Let's go right now. I don't like that. I don't like, we haven't had to listen to that song in a while, Jesse. Of course, welcome into another edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX. This man next to me, well, not next to me, but in the box next to me, is my Thunderstick and your vice mayor, the one and only Jesse Friedman. Jesse, a lot happened late in this game and not much else happened in between the basically first inning and when everything went crazy there in the 8th and the 9th. Of course, this show, by the way, is brought to you by our friends at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365. Of course, we're going to talk once again why it is never ordinary to watch an Arizona Diamondbacks game. They had me. They got me there late. It was once again one of those situations where I believe, Jesse, that this team had done it again and had come back thanks to Corbin Carroll and his late inning heroics there.
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, it was 3 days ago that Jake McCarthy with the Diamondbacks down to their last strike hit that 2-run walk-off single that gave them a 5-4 win over the Rockies. And yes, this wasn't quite that, but it was literally the Diamondbacks down to their final strike, a 1-2 count on Corbin Carroll with 2 outs in the 9th inning. D-backs down 4-2. And yes, he hits a 2-run homer because that's just sort of what the kinds of things that happen to the Diamondbacks late in games at this point. But the bottom of the 9th was less so. It was of all the ways to lose, Derek, that's about as tough as you can draw it up. You've got a runner at first base, Johnny DeLuca, who, has an OPS just over 500 this season for Tampa. He draws a walk. Justin Martinez, after striking out the first batter, just sort of lost his command, as he tends to do at times. DeLuca's on base, and then you have a single that deflects off Blaze Alexander's glove and goes into center field, and Jake McCarthy is unable to pick it up. And before you know it, Johnny DeLuca has gone all the way from first base to home, scoring the winning run for the Tampa Bay Rays. This is a pretty tough one to swallow here if you're the D-backs.
It absolutely is, because the Diamondbacks obviously pride themselves on playing fairly error-free defense. They win the margins, as Torey talks about. They didn't win the margins today. Their defense cost them in several situations, including the 8th inning, which is where the Rays really came back. They took the lead. Ryan Thompson was absolutely terrible in that inning for the Diamondbacks. And, of course, things also didn't go their way defensively there. You had a weird play in the outfield where Lourdes tipped a ball and allowed the runners to advance a little bit further. There was just a weird broken play there in the outfield. But this one was a mess. And the thing that sucks the most about it is it once again spoils a stellar start by Ryne Nelson. And I mean, we'll dig into that deeper, but this snaps their 6-game winning streak. And of course, the Diamondbacks still have an opportunity to potentially win the series still with 2 more games. But like I said, prior to this, when we were talking yesterday about, a series preview with the Rays, it's not like this Rays team is terrible, despite the fact that they waved one of the biggest white flags of any team at the trade deadline. They absolutely, shut it down at the trade deadline, but they've still managed to win some games here, and they're still a dangerous team, especially, on a day like this where the Diamondbacks were, kind of held in check offensively for most of the game.
Yeah, I mean the Rays are like sort of a bad team right now, but they're a bad team by like AL East standards where
Correct.
the bar has just been set extremely high for years. I think the Rays came in having lost 7 of their last 9 games. So they have scuffled a little bit since that trade deadline where they made so many moves as you said. But yeah, I mean really the Rays defense wasn't very good either in this game. A whole lot of run scoring in this one happened because of bad defense on both sides. The Diamondbacks scored only 2 runs in this game off Ryan Pepio, and both of them happened in the first inning, and both of them were because of a fielding error on the Tampa Bay side. The Diamondbacks would not have scored any runs theoretically without that error in the first. They wind up pushing across a pair of runs. And that's another narrative in this one is that, it wasn't just the defense. It wasn't just Ryan Thompson having a bit of a clunker in that 8th inning. It was that the Diamondbacks
Yeah,
offense was really held at bay throughout basically this entire game. I know they did have 9 hits, but they only had 1 extra base hit, that being the Corbin Carroll home run. So they also were swinging early in counts quite a bit,
they
something we're
were.
not we're
They
not really
were.
used to seeing from this Diamondbacks offense. They've really built a reputation for working deep counts and really being kind of a pain for the opposing pitcher. And the D-backs were a little bit more aggressive in this one, and it didn't really pay dividends for them.
Yep, absolutely. RA in the comments says 5 errors in this game, super sloppy. Absolutely. 3 for the Tampa Bay Rays, 2 for the Diamondbacks. And Ryan Pepio, you got to tip your cap. He was good after that first inning. Didn't really go his way. He settled in. Diamondbacks scored early run. Stop me if you've heard this one, but the Diamondbacks scored in the first inning again, which has been just one of those things that's allowed them to go on this run that they've gone on, getting up early, giving that starting pitcher the confidence that they gave Ryne Nelson today. And it wasn't much. It was just the 2 runs early on, but Carroll reaches on a throwing error. Jake McCarthy singles because he can't be stopped right now. And then Jock Peterson got the Diamondbacks on the board with an RBI single that scored Corbin. McCarthy scores later on a Lourdes Gurriel RBI single. But after that, Diamondbacks only managed 6 more hits after the first inning. And I mean, that includes their little comeback run to tie the game there in the 9th inning with Gino getting on base with a walk, and then Corbin Carroll hitting or singling to lead off that inning. I'm sorry, and then Corbin Carroll hitting that game tying home run. But Gino is an absolute Iron Man because that man was robbed today. Like he's such a good person in so many ways. He's such a tough guy because that was the toughest out I've ever seen someone get. He got hit on the hand to the point where on the broadcast you could see the discoloration and the bruising already happening when they zoomed in on him holding his hand. But they had the audacity to call it a strikeout, Jesse. That was egregious. Egregious. The man's bat flew out of his hand, maybe, and maybe that's the only swing that happened, but that was because he got hit there on the hand. Of course, we Diamondbacks fans know it was like another one of those "aw shit, here we go again" moments. We thought, here's Gino possibly possibly losing. Gino stays in the game, ends up being really good in this game. Ends up, every time they showed him in the dugout, he was showing off his bruising and his hand, but the man stayed in this game and he gave the Diamondbacks a chance to win there by, stepping up there in the 9th inning along with Corbin.
Yeah. I mean, he came through with a base knock immediately once that 9th inning started.
Yeah, it was great to see.
And yeah, I mean, for a second, I guess in some ways it was a relief that Gino struck out because it appeared that he was being removed from the game and that
Right.
the Diamondbacks just sort of bizarrely had not selected anyone to take his spot at first base
Correct.
yet. And then it was eventually the broadcast was everyone was on the same page, like, oh, Gino Suarez just struck out because, yeah, as you said, I guess his bat sort of broke the plane there.
Nobody was on the same page. Game day had it marked as all sorts of ridiculous. Like they had it as a strike, and then they also had it as an out. Then they had it as a hit by pitch. Then they took the hit by pitch away. Nobody knew what happened there. But you're right. Like Gino was called out, and that was the reason why he walked back to the dugout like he did after getting checked out there initially. But that was like the most "I'm hurt" walk back to the dugout you ever see, because a player obviously
Yeah.
usually kind of battles to stay in or whatever. And without knowing that he struck out, it looked like Gino's hand must have been broken in 20 places with the way that he was just like, "I'm going to the dugout now. Like I am, and instead it was because he was out. This was a weird game. And of course, the Diamondbacks did not play their best in this one, but Ryne Nelson continues to be incredible for this team. Of course, the bullpen and the defense spoiled another just absolutely incredible outing from Ryne Nelson. And this is the Tampa Bay Rays, so I'm not going to, act like this is the most potent offense, but you put
Yeah.
Ryne Nelson out there and he lately has been doing exactly what you could hope for. Best results every time. It was all about his location today. He could land his fastball, it seemed like, wherever he wanted at times. It was topping out at 96.5 miles per hour, so it wasn't even as fast as we've seen his velo at times, but he did get 6 whiffs on the fastball, and again, he was just able to somehow, some way, control a game with how he can locate that fastball.
Yeah, I mean that continues to be the story with Ryne Nelson, right? I mean, if you're
Yeah,
able to take a fastball that has a great life like his does, and you're able to put it in good spots, if you're able to put it right on the black, it's going to do some good things for you. And it wasn't just the fastball in this one. I know he threw that 61% of the time. He continues to throw his four seamer a whole bunch, as we've seen throughout the year. But he did throw some really nice cutters in this game, I thought, as well. We saw some good changeups. We saw some good sliders as well. He's not leaning on those other pitches all that much, but it feels like he's mixing things up just enough, and the effectiveness and the consistency of those secondary pitches, it feels like that's been a little bit better for him lately, so that hitters aren't just so easily able to dismiss those other pitches and just sort of wait for
right,
the inevitable fastball.
right.
He had 3 extra, just looking at some of the movement numbers. It looks like his changeup had a whole bunch of extra horizontal movement in this game. His cutter in particular, some of you might have noticed this just watching the game. Some of his cutters were really moving a lot horizontally. He averaged 4 inches of horizontal break on his cutter in this one, whereas he normally averages just 1. It usually is not a pitch that moves a whole lot laterally. So, yeah, he continues to look just outstanding for this Diamondbacks team. And I guess that brings us to the inevitable conversation, Derek, of was this Ryne Nelson's last start for the foreseeable future? Based on what Torey Lovello, told us during this past homestand, their plan was to go with 6 guys through the rotation this time, just to give everyone a little bit of an extra rest. But Torey said, and I quote, that he feels very strongly about going back to a 5-man rotation after this point. And I think the sort of assumption that all of us are making is that going back to a 5-man rotation means moving Ryne Nelson to the bullpen and keeping Jordan Montgomery in this rotation. And at this point, the Diamondbacks have not had a better starting pitcher than Ryne Nelson here over the last month and a half. For
Yeah.
him to be the odd man out in this situation, I mean, that's pretty brutal.
It's an insane conversation to be having, but our guy Kevin Conqueso, which is my favorite type of Kevin to order, thank you so much for your super chat, says, thought Torey didn't want a 6-pitcher rotation L. I don't know if is it Torey taking the L there? I don't know what the L there at the end is for, but what I will say is that Jesse just explained it. I just don't know what they do. How do you, at this point, with the way that Ryne Nelson is pitching and the way he has performed for this team over the course of, again, we talk about things that are keys to the success, the early scoring in the first inning, a lot of the things they've been doing. Ryne Nelson pitching as well as he has been absolutely part of the success of this team. And I mean, what that's a tough decision to make. What do you do with him? What do you do with Ryne Nelson at this point with the way he's pitching? I mean, it's not egregious. It's not insulting to say Ryne Nelson is pitching better than everybody on the starting rotation. I mean, at least over the month and a half, he's been pitching better than everybody. And at least right now, his stuff and his outings look much better than Erod or Jordan Montgomery. Like Jordan Montgomery gets obviously kind of drug here a little bit every time this conversation gets brought up. But obviously, I mean, Ryne Nelson is pitching better than a lot of guys in the starting rotation right now. So like, I just don't, I don't know how you turn around and stick a guy that's giving you these kind of outings, these kind of starts in the bullpen, or even send him down. As crazy as it is, I almost like the idea of sending him down more than I like the idea of putting him in the bullpen, just because at least he stays stretched out. At least it's an option they can go back to. Sure, they have to wait 15 days, but if things don't work out, they could go back to Ryne Nelson without, having to kind of have a weird, period of time for him where he's in the bullpen and then maybe he has to come back to the starting rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I have to wonder if Ryan going out there and having yet another excellent start, if it makes the Diamondbacks reconsider. As I said, they've been pretty clear that they were not, at least from what they've said publicly, that they were not planning on doing a 6-man through for any more than one turn through the rotation. But, we've certainly seen the Diamondbacks, say one thing and then change course. Obviously, they're not the only team that does that from time to time. So maybe the Diamondbacks reconsider and they think about going that route. The D-backs do have, I believe it's 3 off days here in just the next week and a half or so,
Right.
which is a lot.
So they have plenty of days off so that they don't even need a 6-man rotation over this stretch.
Right. Yeah, I think you get to a point where a 6-man rotation can be pretty undesirable because you're, rather than guys pitching on 4 days of rest, they're looking at pitching on 7-8 days rest, which I don't know if any starter really wants to do that. So, yeah, it's a tough situation for them. I mean, we've talked about the Montgomery situation in the past as well. And this isn't to say that Montgomery hasn't looked better at the very least for the Diamondbacks lately. I mean, I know his last start came against a subpar Colorado Rockies team, and he didn't finish that outing particularly well. He wound up throwing 30 pitches in the 6th inning, had trouble kind of closing the door at the end like he did in his previous start, but it still was a much better version of Jordan Montgomery than we've seen for most of the year. I mean, he generated 22 whiffs in that game, which matched a career high. So it's a good problem to have. I mean, I guess that's sort of what I go back to is like you'd rather. I mean, there's a whole lot of teams right now that would rather have the issue of having too many starters and trying to figure out how to narrow it down than the other issue of having not enough guys. And you think about what the Dodgers are going through now with Tyler Glasnow hitting the IL. They're just sort of trying to find a way to get 5 guys who could stay in a rotation. So yeah, they're in an enviable position in a lot of ways. But again, the thought of taking Ryne Nelson out of the rotation at this point, I mean, it does seem a little bit crazy when you look at the numbers.
It really does. It really does. And of course, for all the obvious reasons, Ryne Nelson is our king snake in this game. He deserved better. He deserved more offensive support, and he deserved for the bullpen to not fall apart the way they did. 6 and a third innings pitched, 1 earned run, 0 walks, 6 strikeouts. And he puts up that 0 walk number quite a bit, Jesse, and he has just been excellent. I mean, it's incredible how many outings now he's had. I think this is like 8 in his last 10 where he's allowed 2 earned runs or less. I mean, it's just been wild how good Ryne Nelson continues to be for this team. A part of it is that the man is playing, kind of, he's got his back against the wall, right? Like he knows he's the odd man out, and he knows his only way out of this situation potentially is for him to just pitch like he's pitching, and he's doing it. And that's, again, a big reason why he's kind of pitching for his playing time, pitching, kind of trying to prove to Torey Lovullo in the front office that he should stay. And honestly, he probably should.
Yeah, I think the other part of this is that Ryne Nelson could be an asset for the Diamondbacks in the bullpen. I've seen some people talking about that in the chat. Like this team doesn't really have a long man right now, and there is a bit of a void there with Bryce Jarvis going down with injury. He's out for the season. Slade Ciccone, obviously the team sent down to AAA the other day. They could bring him back up at some point, but he's not currently on this roster. So there's something to be said for the coverage that Nelson could give you in the bullpen. And you'd feel pretty good about him coming in even in higher leverage situations, right? With how well he's pitched lately. And this Diamondbacks bullpen has been pretty good of late, Derek, but it didn't look so great in this one. Obviously, Ryan Thompson, who's been very good for the Diamondbacks throughout pretty much the entire season, and certainly last year, in those final couple months plus the postseason, it was really remarkable to watch his turnaround. And of course, today he returned back to the Trop, pitching against his former team. But it was a part of this was like, yes, this was a part of this was it was a rough outing for Ryne Nelson or for Ryan Thompson. Part of it was that uh, there were just some balls that weren't hit very hard that did wind up going for singles. I mean, you think about the way that that rally sort of got started. There was a runner at first base with 2 outs in that 8th inning. You feel like you're in a decent spot to get out of it unscathed, and then you get an infield single. I believe that was by Junior Caminero, if memory serves. And then you get another single that was just hit off the end of the bat. I think it was 70 miles an hour off the bat to the outfield. And that winds up scoring a couple of runs because it was misplayed by Lourdes Gurriel Jr. in left field. So neither of those singles were hit particularly hard. And if either of those is an out, then suddenly that 8th inning looks a whole lot different. And unfortunately for Thompson, things kind of snowballed for him from there. He walked the next batter. He allowed another hit that allowed another run to come in to score, turning a 3-2 game into a 4-2 game. So it wasn't a great day for Ryan Thompson, but it's not like he went out there and got totally shelled or anything either.
Right. Well, and I mean, again, like you said earlier, Justin Martinez wasn't steady today either. It was basically a disaster in kind of both innings there for this team because it's not like either guy was shelled. It was just these blue pits, like who says right here, these Mickey Mouse blue pits. But again, no pre-inning conference meeting on the mound with J Mart. So I don't know, maybe listen to my advice next time and just do it every time. Just go out there, just gas them up. You know what I mean? Just like when you fill up at Circle K and you hit the thing and your car automatically stops the gas pump. And I know they tell you not to do this, but then you just put in that little extra 3 cents of gas. That's what Justin Martinez needs. He needs that little extra 3 cents up to round up to the next 0 or 5. And I know we all do that at the gas pump. Don't act like I'm the only one, but this was an exciting game, and a big reason why it was an exciting game was because of Corbin Carroll's late inning home run. And of course, that is our Sanderson Ford deep drive of the game. Corbin Carroll's 9th inning blast was an impressive one. It was exciting. And of course, Corbin Carroll, shout out to the fact that the power is back for Corbin Carroll. The confidence is back, and he might have inherited a little bit of Alec Thomas's clutch gene, Jesse, because the man has been doing it late for this team lately.
Yeah, he really has. I mean, we've talked about it lately. Like Corbin Carroll has turned from, this leadoff hitter who gets on base a lot, poking singles all over the place and also showcasing some power, to what we've seen over the last month and a half is a pretty good player, but not really the same guy that we saw last year. He's not getting on base quite as much, but he's also hitting like a whole bunch of home runs. This was his 10th home run, I believe it is, going back to July 7th, which is pretty impressive. I mean, for him to hit 10 homers in the span of, what is that, about 5 weeks? Like,
but
that's
2
pretty
in 3 months prior to that.
Right. Yeah, we've said it a whole bunch of times. He had 2 homers in his first 87 games, and now he has 10 in his last 30 or somewhere in the low 30s. So he's really turned it on from a power perspective. He got one of the worst changeups that you'll see Pete Fairbanks throw. It was just sort of center cut right in the middle of the plate, really, in an 0-2 or in a 1-2 count. And Corbin Carroll was able to go deep on that. So yeah, it was a big moment for him. It felt like it was a no way moment for me, where I was like, okay, surely the Diamondbacks late game magic, like, it has to run out at some point, right? And I guess it eventually did, in a sense, with how this one ended, but still pretty impressive for the Diamondbacks, down to their final strike yet again, to find a way to tie this game.
Well, of course, we have to thank our friends at Sanderson Ford, and I need to thank them for multiple reasons. One, we went out, we hung out at Sanderson Ford. Jesse may or may not have won a race by being a magic being, and possibly gave our Discord chat one of the greatest gifts of all time, which is Jesse in a car saying, "Ha, losers." It's pretty outstanding. So shout out to the creators of that. Not the person that memed me running out the door. Whoever did that is a bad person, and I, of course, will never forgive you. But I got to give a shout out to Sanderson Ford. Our guy Lauren hooked us up over there, Jesse. Got myself, by the way, that the color is hot pepper red. It's that hot pepper red Bronco Sport that you jumped in and tried to take the test drive in. Lauren gave that one to me, and I'm driving that around town today. And I don't know if I'm going to give it back. I won't lie. I'm not going to steal it, but I might just drive to a different country and never come back. I mean, that's probably stealing. I don't know, but I'm having a great time in this 2024 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend. And let me tell you, I'm showing it off like I did purchase it, and I'm considering it because Sanderson Ford has some great deals going on right now. Not to mention that Big Bend Ford Bronco Sport ranked highest in quality in its segment by JD Power. They have 0% financing right now for 36 months with no payments for 90 days on the Ford F-150, which I know our guy Saul took out. We got an Escape, Edge, Explorer, and Expedition. And I, again, am loving having a new vehicle because my car now, based on the math I did today, is over 10 years old. And when you were born before 1999, the 2000s all just kind of run together. So it doesn't really feel like your car is as old because you're like, it's a 2014. Your car is old. It's old. It needs to be replaced. And you need to go talk to our guy, Lauren, over at Sanderson Ford. They will get you hooked up with a brand new vehicle. And right now, the Sanderson Ford summer sales event is here, and they are teaming up with the Boys of Summer for a final playoff payoff sale. Purchase or lease any new Ford and get 4 tickets for your family to go see these Arizona Diamondbacks push for the playoffs this season. Get 0% for 36 months OAC from Ford Credit. See dealer for details. And again, big thank you to Sanderson Ford for making my life better. I don't know what I'm going to do in this Ford Bronco over the weekend, Jesse, but I might come pick you up and go to Greer or one of these places that you take pictures of but never actually take me to, because this thing can go off road. And I don't know if Lauren would be approving of that, but it is a test drive. And in a test drive, I feel like I should take it off road as much as possible to really, get the feel for it. So
we'll get it washed before you bring it back.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll gas it up. We'll get it washed. It'll be fine. But we might stop by Gila River Resorts and Casinos for a boys' night because it's the perfect vehicle to take over there. And it's always a great time at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. They offer an authentic and immersive experience with an unprecedented level of entertainment and excitement you just won't find anywhere else here in the Valley. Of course, they have their state-of-the-art gaming floor with over 800 slot machines, 15 blackjack tables, live table games, and of course, Arizona's largest casino sportsbook. Head to Gila River Resorts and Casinos and let them show you what the next level is all about. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. And our guy Damon is back. And we're not in the same room, but I'd probably hug him and call him my baby boy. And I'm hoping after some time apart, maybe Damon would like to reconsider the whole boys trip thing. Maybe, I don't know. Would it make this, a 3 thing? But we'll see. I don't know.
I'm thinking about it.
All right. I know. I missed you. I missed you a lot, especially. We've already discussed all the reasons why I missed you, but I missed you because of this wonderful graphic right here. Don't forget to hit the like button and also hold the line. And if you are here right now on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe to the channel, sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss whenever our shows go live. And of course, hit that like. We'd love it when you do. If you're listening on the audio podcasting side, we love you guys as well. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite audio podcasting app. And please leave us a review. Those reviews mean the world to us. Taking a look here at some of the chat, we have Andrew Lee asked, why'd Newman get put at first? Just didn't trust Bell's defense, or is there more to it? Torrey's actually been making that move quite often recently, where he has been going to Kevin Newman over there at first base late in games just to kind of have that extra infielder, that extra defender that he feels like maybe has a little bit more range than Josh Bell.
Yeah, I agree with that. We talked about it when the Diamondbacks acquired Josh Bell. Like, he was so hot offensively, and that has carried over to the Diamondbacks. He didn't have his best day offensively today, of course, going 0-for-4. But defensively, there have been some questions about Josh Bell for a while. We went over the defensive metrics when they first acquired him. They're not too pretty. So no surprises there. Yeah, I think that was just a simple case of Torrey wanting to go with the better defender there with Kevin Newman, which I guess brings me to another interesting topic here, Derek, which is that the Diamondbacks just sent Alek Thomas down to Reno, and we've seen them do similar things with Alek Thomas late in games quite a bit. And obviously, we can't really say anything negative about Jake McCarthy in a sense, because he's been so out of this world good
Right.
in the last month and a half that it just doesn't really feel right. But at the same time, you can ask the question, if Alek Thomas were on this roster right now, would the Diamondbacks have maybe made a defensive sub to get Thomas's glove in center field late in this game? I'm not totally sure that they necessarily would have, but it's something we've seen Torey do in the past.
I want to say I also appreciate Sean's comment. Sean said the drop off of people in the chat after a loss makes me sad. LOL. You're not wrong, Sean. It makes me sad too. It also hasn't happened very often. So we've had the chance to kind of build this community, and kind of not only have the Diamondbacks been on a roll, but we've been a little bit on a roll. And because of that, we have a very exciting thing happening here that we're going to probably tease all episode long. But my God, let's just say at one point yesterday afternoon, in a parking lot, in the heat, in the sun, I was hugging Jesse and jumping up and down. Let's just say that. That's the best way for me to kind of hype up this situation, just for you to visualize us standing with each other. Jesse not really happy that I'm screaming and jumping up and down while hugging him, me losing my mind. But that's just a little taste of what's to come. Make sure you do not miss Monday's show, no matter what happens this weekend. Like my guy Sean says, win or lose over the course of the weekend, make sure to be here for Monday, because it is going to be one of the biggest days in the history of this podcast. It will forever change our podcast. We will never be the same again. That feels very
Wow.
Is that too much? Was that too much? All right, well, maybe that was too much. All right, I'll dial it back a little bit, but I'm very excited. I'm also not excited to take a look at the count here, presented by our friends at Desert Financial Credit Union, but let's do so anyway, because this game kind of was what it was. Diamondbacks get outscored by the Rays 5-4, which, by the way, fantastic use of that correct logo from tonight's jersey there, Damon. Got to give my guy Damon some props. And I also got to say,
that's what I do, Derek.
God, I hate how much I loved looking at them in those Devil Rays jersey. That's not even their City Connect jersey. That was just their like, oh, we're going to wear our throwback. And it makes me sick because we don't wear our throwback. And these two teams have like the sickest. Imagine if both teams were wearing their throwback jerseys. Oh, I'm getting off track now. Anyway, we got 10 hits here by the Rays to the Diamondbacks 9. Rays were 2 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Meanwhile, the Diamondbacks were 3 for 8. Diamondbacks had that one extra base hit, a very big one, to the Rays too. I think that just illustrates how much the offense was kind of held in check here. That Corbin Carroll home run was the Diamondbacks' only extra base hit of the night. And then hard hit percentage, once again, is a useless stat, and it's a wash. Rays 36% hard hit percentage to the Diamondbacks 37.9%.
That's the real battle right there, Derek. D-backs 37.9% hard hit rate, Rays 36%.
We got it. We did it.
Hang the banner.
Yeah, they won the real battle in this game tonight. I mean, I mentioned it earlier. Corbin Carroll's homer was the only Diamondbacks extra base hit in this game, and that just really puts a lot of pressure on you as an offense. Like if you're not hitting the gaps, if you're not getting the ball over the fence, which we've seen the Diamondbacks do so well lately, you're sort of relegated to like stringing walks and singles together as best you can. And the D-backs did do a little bit of that in the first inning with the help of a fielding error, of course. But the rest of the game, it was pretty quiet from them overall offensively. And again, it's another thing where this offense has been so good lately that, much like Jake McCarthy and his defensive miscue that proved costly there in the ninth, it's hard to get too worked up about the offense. It's hard to get too worked up about some sloppy defense late in the game, given that the Diamondbacks have been one of the best defensive teams all season, really. It feels like sort of an aberration, Derek, where, even a team that is playing really, really well in all facets, you're still going to have off nights every now and then. And outside of Ryne Nelson, who did not really have an off night at all, he remained very, very good tonight.
Yeah.
But for a lot of other facets of this team, it was just sort of one of those days.
Don't lump him in with this. That's what I have to say.
Right.
We have a super chat from Benjamin Hundley. I don't know. I don't think we addressed this one. He said, after watching this sloppy game. I don't want the D-backs to get that bye week in the playoffs.
Is
What are your
this
thoughts?
like connected to the fact that they had an off
day
day
off.
yesterday, and so
I would love to know what their record is after off days. I would just love to know what their record is after off days. That's all.
I mean, that was a storyline early in the season, right? Like whether you wanted to call it the first game of a series or the day after an off day, their record in both of those situations was
Very
pretty
bad.
abysmal for, the first couple months of the year. And then they went on a run where they just won the first game of every single series that they played for a while. And suddenly it was like, oh, maybe this was just sort of a weird fluke and not like maybe there wasn't anything to this at all. So yeah, I don't know. As I said yesterday and will continue to say, if
Jesse's
I'm
Jesse's gonna die on this hill.
if I'm an MLB team, I want the bye. I want to play 3 series instead of 4 series, regardless of how favorable you feel the matchup is in the wild card round. Anything can happen in a 3-game series, whether it's at home or on the road. Just ask the Milwaukee Brewers last year, who probably felt pretty good about facing the Diamondbacks. Corbin Burns against Brandon Pfaadt. Like for them, they probably felt pretty good going into that game. Obviously the Diamondbacks were able to do what they did. So, give me the bye, Derek. If I'm an MLB team vying for the playoffs, give me the bye 100 times out of 100.
Well, we know Jesse doesn't lie. We know I lie habitually, but we definitely know the numbers never lie. So, Jesse, what do you have for your number that does not lie tonight?
Tonight's number is 2.73. I tweeted this one out earlier. This is Ryne Nelson's ERA since the start of July. That covers 9 games. And it just goes back to what we were saying earlier, where Ryne Nelson has been so incredibly good. I mean, this is sort of what you expect at this point. Like I'm at the point where Ryne Nelson going out there and putting up 6 1/3 innings with 1 run allowed, it just sort of feels like another day for him, right? Whereas before and early in the season, an outing like this would have felt really like a breakthrough. He just continues to command the baseball at a really, really high level. And as I said earlier, maybe getting a little more movement on some of the secondary stuff, keeping guys off balance just enough, and then throwing the fastball in all quadrants of the zone. And it just continues to be really effective for him.
Our guy Yoshi in the chat says, guys, should I not watch tomorrow? The Rays are like 6-2 or some shit when I watch them. Well, as I've told you before, nothing you do impacts the baseball game being played on the field. It's not like me dyeing my hair or cutting my beard. Don't be ridiculous. But just to be safe, I say, don't watch. That's what I say. You're forbidden from watching. That's what I say. But again, stop by Circle K to get yourself gassed up the way that Justin Martinez needs to be gassed up before his outings. And it's also America's Thirst Stop. I need myself a 79-cent Polar Pop right now. I'm sad, and I want to overcome this sadness. And sometimes the best way to do that is to go and just put a little bit of every soda in your cup, like you did when you were 10 years old visiting a Burger King, right? Like just a little bit of each. I don't know if it's a punishment. I don't know if it's a treat. I don't know what it's going to taste like, and it's different every single time. So you can do what you want to with your Polar Pop,
Derek. But I think I don't know about all the sodas, but a good mix is like you get like Gatorade, Sprite, Fanta, and you really just get all the like lemon limey flavors together and just make a concoction that is just unbelievable.
It could be.
That's pretty reasonable.
Or it could be terrible, but
I was always a big, I think it's kind of a classic to mix like Sprite and lemonade. Like I always felt like that worked pretty well. Yeah. Highly recommend.
I like anytime, like sometimes I'll actually like get like a Coke or a Pepsi, and if they have like the syrup for coffee, I'll just get a little dab of like the cherry syrup, which is way more real than like cherry Coke. It's different. It's great. I'll tell you that. But anyway, this is all the fun stuff you could do at Circle K. If you're an Inner Circle member, you'll save all sorts of money as well, by the way. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. But when you do, you'll save yourself 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. So, of course, there's a way to gas yourself up. And also, Circle K is America's thirst stop, so make sure to get yourself a drink while you're there. Also, if it's hot, and I know it's nighttime right now, but again, you just need a good pair of sunglasses day or night when you live in the state of Arizona and probably anywhere in this country, especially if you want to be cool, right? So plan accordingly with a good pair of sunglasses, and you can get those sunglasses from our friends at Shady Rays. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company offering a world-class product with durable frames, crystal clear optics, and hundreds of styles to choose from. So make sure to check out Shady Rays. Find some that you like. Of course, there's no pressure or there's no hassle at all when you shop. If you do not love your Shady Rays, if they don't fit you well, or you're just kind of second guessing purchasing them, you can exchange it for a new pair, return them worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk at all. Of course, when you shop, their team always has your back with personal and fast support. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHNX for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Well, it's the weekend, Jesse. There was a weird debate because we were looking at the spring training schedule for the Arizona Diamondbacks dropped, and they were talking about weekend games and how many weekend games were being played at Salt River Fields, but apparently they count Friday in the weekend. Since when do we count Friday in the weekends now?
I think Friday, the latter portion of Friday is when the weekend begins in my mind. But
that's
granted,
crazy.
When we're talking spring training, Friday games are generally played on Friday afternoon. So I understand your gripe if you don't want those counting as weekend games.
We have weekdays and we have weekends. There's weekdays and weekends. Friday is a weekday. This is insane. This is an insane conversation to be having.
You ever seen the freeway on a Friday after like noon in this city? No one works these days. Fucking nobody. It's insane.
Well, we're here. It's 7:30 at night, and I have to miss a concert with my friend Tim so I could talk about the Diamondbacks getting walked off by the Tampa Bay Rays. Oh,
I don't sleep.
I love this job.
I just go straight from Indianapolis onto a plane.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Damon being made to get on a plane at 4:00 in the morning and fly here and then still work a day of work. That's crazy, right? Sorry, Damon. We love you though.
Love this squad. Love this team.
I love you more than I love Players Weekend, that's for sure, because Player Weekend is lame. It's lame, Jesse. There's no more nicknames on the back of jerseys. We already talked about this before when they announced when Players Weekend was going to be. But now that it's here, I love everything about it except the concept that it needs to be confined to one weekend, right? We saw Jock Peterson out there with a goddamn yellow crayon tonight. I want to see Jock Peterson with an entire box of crayons as his baseball bats. I want to see all the guys have all the stuff. Bryce Harper had like his bats designed by his daughters or his children. You just had a lot of creativity, a lot of fun out there. And to be honest, as I start watching it, I just come to the realization that there is zero reason why allowing players to exhibit this much of themselves, this much of their personality, this much of their character needs to be confined to one weekend per baseball season. Like, it's fine, have Players Weekend, do something else. Like, I like the idea that they're going to have for the next 2 days where they're going to feature charities that all of these guys sponsor and involved with, as well as like their family and coaches and the people that got them to this level. Like, I like highlighting that, and I like making that maybe part of the broadcast that they don't typically do. But the idea of them wearing cool shoes and having cool custom bats should just be every goddamn game. Or at least like one person on Twitter told me, like, have it on every weekend, right? Like, have every weekend be a weekend where players can show out with their custom bats and their custom shoes and have a good time, because this is fun. This grows the game. This makes baseball more fun. I see zero reason why you need to just keep it confined to this weekend.
Yeah, I maybe don't feel like quite so strongly on my hatred of Players Weekend as you do, but I fully agree with what you're saying, where it's like, it feels like Major League Baseball's, it feels like they're trying maybe a little bit too hard to like they're trying to make baseball fun, right? They're trying to grow the audience and whatnot. And in their minds, weekends like this help with that. And I don't disagree with that, but it's also like, yeah, nothing that you're doing this weekend, it feels like has to be confined to a single weekend. You want your players to be encouraged to show their personalities and, have the patches on their hats or whatever it is at as much as possible, right? There's nothing wrong with any of this stuff. So
I want their charities. I want their charities on their cleats all the time, right? Like I want all of that. Like there was some great ideas being floated in by people, like, and just overall, I know like baseball is weird because it has a lot of like small rules and things that are about like, the batter's eye and having things, like what we talked about when Ryan Thompson had the glove that was the wrong color and he had to go swap it out, right? Like there are certain things that in baseball are deemed like necessary to not mess with, the game or mess with the batter playing or whatever. And I get that, right? Like I don't know, like somebody suggested that the catchers have more goalie style hockey masks where they can like paint them and have, like stuff about them on the helmet, just cool stuff that again is interesting. And I know we've seen that in the past. Like that's nothing exactly new, but this, somebody pointing it out made me realize like, yeah, they have kind of gone away from some of that stuff. I also know based on the Diamondbacks clubhouse that these guys wear some incredibly fashionable shoes and stuff all the time. So it's not like the personalities being zapped out by MLB and making them all conform.
Sure.
Like the Diamondbacks are one of the swaggiest teams in baseball. They do not let, like they're out there wearing colors that aren't even part of the team. Like everybody wear yellow. Why? Just cause like that's part of the Diamondbacks, right? Like, so I love that about them. I also love what we saw today and I would love to see more of it. I think baseball can be one of those games where they have an advantage over other sports that baseball players are more recognizable. They're out there more just because they're not, they're not wearing helmets and stuff. There's a lot of time of like just showing shot. Like baseball players, in my opinion, tend to be more recognizable than other sports, just a little bit. Maybe basketball is also up there as well, especially when you're 7 feet tall. It's hard not to notice you. Baseball just has a chance though to build their stars better. And part of building their stars is stuff like people going crazy for Bobby Witt Jr. having Pablo Sanchez on his bat tonight. That was awesome. That's awesome. That makes me love Bobby Witt Jr. It really does.
Yeah,
and I don't want to love Bobby Witt Jr.
I guess we're advocating for Bobby Witt Jr. to use the Pablo Sanchez bat year round. Like I mean I'm on board. I'm cool with that. I don't see any issues.
Yeah, it's just I mean, and again, you're right. I mean, I don't hate Players Weekend. I just think that it's been watered down and is kind of lame, and the stuff that they are doing on it isn't special enough to like make it that weekend. What was special was when Brad Boxberger used emojis on the back of his jersey and somehow got himself to the Hall of Fame. It's amazing when Zach Greinke has a chance to give himself any nickname and he goes with Greinke, right? Like, but you also had all of the personality being shown, Corey Seager's brother and things like that, right? Like all of those fun things that we saw players do over the course of that weekend really is so memorable that to this day, even though they haven't done it in years, when you bring up Players Weekend, that's what people think about. They immediately go, oh, are they bringing back the nicknames on the back of their jerseys?
Yeah.
And again, it's nothing to get hung up on. It's just, if you're going to go out and make it like all of this, like just go out and let all the players do all that fun stuff. Make it a big deal and make it actually special. Don't make it something that basically is you doing stuff you should do all the time to grow your sport. Right. But we have Diamondbacks business to handle with the loss tonight. Obviously things aren't great, but things aren't great for the Los Angeles Dodgers right now, as they have lost another big piece of their starting rotation.
Yeah, Tyler Glasnow going on the injured list with right elbow tendonitis. That is maybe the last thing the Dodgers fans wanted to hear at this point. River Ryan, who had come up and was doing a nice job for them out of the rotation, he just had Tommy John surgery. He's going to have Tommy John surgery. It's certainly missed the rest of the year. So, yeah, the Dodgers rotation depth, Derek, is in a very precarious spot right now. I think they're expected to get Bobby Miller back maybe at some point, but obviously Bobby Miller was not really very effective for them earlier in the season. We just saw Walker Buehler return from injury, and he was not really very good in that game at all. Clayton Kershaw is still back. He's been all right. I think he has a 3.50 ERA. Jack Flaherty has a 3.78 ERA since coming over in that trade. That trade now seems enormous for them, Derek. I can't imagine where the Dodgers would be without having Jack Flaherty in the rotation. It feels like a very necessary thing. But yeah, I mean, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, I think Dave Roberts gave an update there, and I believe he just threw a sim game and is expected to throw a couple of more at least before going out on a rehab assignment potentially. So you're still looking at being probably at least 2-3 weeks away from getting Yamamoto back. So the Dodgers are in an increasingly difficult position, and the Diamondbacks losing one game, while it certainly doesn't help their cause as they try to catch the Dodgers in the NL West, Tyler Glasnow going down. I mean, that's a pretty big blow for this Dodgers team down the stretch.
Yeah, for sure. And right now, the Dodgers are winning. They're in the top of the ninth right now against the St. Louis Cardinals and are winning by a score of 7-6. Meanwhile, of course, because the Diamondbacks lose, the Padres are also losing right now. They are losing to the Rockies by a score of 7-3 in the top of the seventh.
Still a ways to go in that.
Yeah, I was going to say it's inevitable that the Padres will come back in that game and win it. So don't be surprised.
Jackson Merrill is about to hit a game-tying grand slam, right? That's what feels like is inevitable here.
Yeah, you make me sick, and so do they. I just can't believe it. But it would be very fitting that with how hot these two teams have been, and the fact that the Diamondbacks could never really get one up on the Padres throughout this stretch, that they both lose on the same night and that the Dodgers win.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, it'd be a big sort of morale boost for the Dodgers to at least gain a game in the NL West on both the D-backs and Padres on the same day that they get some bad Tyler Glasnow news. I don't know what the timeline is on Tyler Glasnow. Like, I don't think he's necessarily out for the season. I haven't seen too much information about that injury at this point. But anytime you have a pitcher dealing with, this is basically elbow inflammation, right? I mean, tendonitis means that means inflammation. You're talking about his elbow. So that's a bit of a scary injury. And obviously Tyler Glasnow has a bit of a history of arm injuries in the past. So this is a pretty big blow for them.
Well, Monday, Jesse, like I said, is a huge day for us. Do you want to tease this in any way? Do you want to say anything about what's happening on Monday, or do you want to just keep your mouth shut? Have I already said enough?
I mean, I think you probably already said plenty.
Have I overhyped it? Is there any way it can live up to the amount of hype that I've given it now?
I think I don't really think you have overhyped it, I guess, is all I will say, because it is a pretty
that's crazy. That just sent an insane message to the chat, the people viewing right now, because I mean it is a really big deal, and we are very excited to share with you guys and I guess a new a little change around here, maybe a new addition. So make sure to join us on Monday, and of course, make sure to get us your best Mailbag Monday questions. Don't embarrass us, okay? So get us your best Mailbag Monday questions. In the meantime, let's all enjoy the weekend, and hopefully let's enjoy some more Diamondbacks wins in that godforsaken building known as Tropicana Field. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at @cap_caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Of course, the guy you all need to follow is the people's producer himself, the hardest working man at PHNX. It's Damon Dog himself. That's at Damon, DAWG. We are Damon's dogs.
Bark,
bark, bark. Our show is at PHNX_DBacks, but of course, all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Again, very excited for Monday, so make sure to come back then. In the meantime, we hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. And again, we hope we enjoy the Diamondbacks continuing this streak of not losing series. So hopefully they can keep that going. Until Monday, we will see you guys then. Have a great weekend. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's more fun when you properly hype up a big surprise like this.
We all silly like the mayor.